We're always talking about what to watch on Netflix, but you know what? There are more streaming services. Let's talk about HBO Max. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking 5 series to binge on HBO Max, and we're not just focusing on HBO-centric series. I'm bringing in every series from every category you could think of. We're going to have a few different genres, maybe some animated shows along the way. My goal is to give you guys a show or multiple shows that you've never seen before. You need something to binge over the next few weeks. These could be the shows for you unless you've seen all 5, and if that's the case, I would love to know that in the comments down below. If you're 5 for 5, that's impressive. And of course, if you enjoy this series, if you like these what to watch videos, I would love to do one for Amazon Prime. Let me know if you'd like to see that. But let's get right into this. So I wanted to stay away, at least in this first video, from the more obvious shows for the most part, like Friends, like some of the staples for HBO, Game of Thrones. Although for this first pick, I had to give you one that I know you've heard about, and I know most of you have seen. But if you have not seen Chernobyl, if you haven't experienced and witnessed the glory of this show and the madness that comes from it, it has to be one of the greatest television achievements I've ever seen. A limited series. And when you talk about bingeable shows, that's a factor in this video. This is only 5 episodes. Granted, they're a bit lengthy, but 5 episodes, so easy to get through. My wife and I got through it in one day, and we almost went back the next day. We waited, but we did watch it again. It's just so easy to watch. Even though I say that, it's also terrifying. It's horrifying, but you're so invested in the lives of these individuals. And what the show is it's kind of surrounding the explosion in 1986 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, as it becomes the world's worst, or one of the world's worst, man-made catastrophes. It's so interesting because this entire show is about the cover-up. It's all about what it takes to convince these people and the outsiders looking in that, hey, you know, we're not the ones at fault here. What happened was beyond our control. Or was it? Lots of questions, lots of conspiracies, lots of lying, all right, from that specific government. But it really, I mean, you see it and you're like, it's kind of scary. No matter where you live or no matter what perspective you look at it, I mean, what happened in general is scary. And they use this body horror. They use us, you know, getting a peek into what actually happened and, you know, getting a look at the individuals who were exposed to this nuclear power plant. It is terrifying. And everything you've ever heard about Chernobyl, a lot of those questions are answered in this show. And it is just a fantastic experience. One of the most well-directed shows I've ever seen. Some of the best acting. And Chernobyl, not just one of the greatest shows of that year, maybe one of the greatest shows of all time. So pretty big recommendation at the start. Let's ease back a little bit and go into something along the same lines. This is probably another show that you've heard of, but I don't hear it being talked about enough. We're sticking with HBO for these first 2 choices and talking about another HBO show that is possibly my #1 favorite, and that is Succession. So in episode 1 of Succession, you have this massive bigwig named Logan Roy shocking his family with the announcement of his retirement. So this news is like tearing his family apart. Everyone's trying to figure out, okay, who is the heir apparent here? Who's going to take over this huge corporation? And this is a dramatic show that has had 2 seasons thus far. And I kid you not, some of the best, well, technically worst, but some of the best family dynamics I've ever seen showcased on television. It focuses on the lives of Logan's children, how they come together, trying to figure out what's going to happen with the business, how it's going to be ran, and then things start to get messed up in the last few episodes of Season 1. Season 2 comes around, and for me, almost it may have surpassed the quality of Season 1. The drama has never been better. The conversations, the dialogue in this show is so crisp, so fantastic. I have never seen a show that has had me on the edge of my seat, mostly through dialogue. I've never seen a show like Succession. It is fantastic. If you love a movie like The Big Short, if you love talking business, if you love discovering how things work through conversations and seeing certain individuals go through the toughest of times, it may not be the most fun watch at times because things get bad, but everyone is so good. The acting is top-notch. I cannot name a single performance that just stands out because the ensemble has to be one of the best ensembles I've ever seen on television. Succession is incredible. Seasons 1 and 2, an easy binge thus far, getting prepared for Season 3, which is supposed to drop in 2020, I believe, and it is my second recommendation on this list. My third recommendation, we're going to stray away from the drama, go more into the sitcom territory, and talk about one of my favorite shows of all time, I believe to be one of the staples of the 90s. This is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. From 1990 to 1996, this show not only built up Will Smith's career, but built up the careers of every individual involved. It gave us one of the best television families I've ever seen. And sure, it's silly, it's zany, it's wacky, and I won't even sit back and say it's the most technically well-produced show I've ever seen. There were a few moments, and they break the fourth wall, which is awesome. Will Smith does it very often on the show. But there are moments as we progress, you can tell things are a bit mixed up. They're replacing cast members, which is fine. It's something that they had to do. And I wasn't a massive fan of certain seasons. Like Season 5 for me, I'm like, okay, there's some really good episodes, but you didn't capture the magic of Season 4 and this and that. I mean, it's really just a combination of silly nitpicks. I mean, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, at least every other episode, you're going to find a moment that's going to make you bursting out loud laughing. So funny, and a lot of the jokes are timely, yes. So he's making references to characters, to people that you may not even know of at this point in time, especially if you're younger. But it all comes down to his delivery. Will Smith's delivery is excellent. His relationship with Carlton is awesome. The acting on the part of James Avery, who was and is always going to be America's uncle, he was so good in this show. And his relationship with his kids and with Will Smith and Tatiana Ali and Karen Parsons, Jeffrey, one of the best TV butlers of all time. I mean, there are just so many moments, emotional moments. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it before, the moment when Will Smith breaks down over his father, but then you have the comedy on top of that and the timely nature of certain elements that, you know, stuck in the 90s, but some of those elements really work in 2020. You're seeing a lot of it play out, and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I could talk about it all day. Such an easy watch. 30-minute episodes, an excellent show, and one of my favorite shows of the 90s. All right, we took our break from HBO. Let's circle back around to a show that I just, I didn't hear enough people talk about. And maybe that's because it's only 2 seasons. Maybe that's because it made its mark, it had its run, it ended fairly quickly, but it ended because the creators wanted it to end. That is a show called Vice Principals. And one of the creators of the show is Danny McBride, who is also the star of the show. It also stars Walton Goggins, who is fantastic, in a role that I never expected him to flourish in. So your basic premise here is an overprotective father is obsessed with becoming a principal, and he's competing against this vice principal who's like the big popular guy. Something happens that makes them work together to save the day, and that's where the comedy spawns from. And this is a pure comedy. Vice Principals is not only hilarious, but it's timely in all of the right ways. The chemistry, the competition between these two individuals, and it's such an unexpected combo. Danny McBride, Walton Goggins. I never in a million years thought that would work on the level that it does, but it gets emotional, it hits those emotional beats when it needs to. A lot of the kids come in and they make an impact as really fun supporting players, and the supporting cast in general is fantastic. Georgia King, Maya G. Love, everyone is great, but you're really focused on these two individuals, and Vice Principals, in my opinion, will go down as one of the most underrated shows to ever hit HBO. And it could be because of its length. But again, it's a show that ended because it was the right thing to do. And I think it was the right thing to do. The finale was great. Such an easy show to get through. If you want more of a modern comedy, less of something like The Fresh Prince, Vice Principals is definitely the show for you. Now, Vice Principals was a show that I caught late, wasn't able to review on this channel. Same goes for another show that I just think is criminally underwatched. and this originally came out on Cartoon Network. Season 3 is going to be an HBO Max original, but maybe also Cartoon Network. Regardless, you have books 1 and 2 of a show called Infinity Train. Infinity Train is so cool. It's so good. It is full of this adult emotion that you rarely see. Well, I say that. You used to rarely see on Cartoon Network with something like Regular Show, with something like Adventure Time. I mean, they have that. Steven Universe, I haven't caught up on that show, but I've heard really great things. Infinity Train is just another example of beautiful writing, fantastic fleshed out characters, and the fact that you can jump into so many different universes utilizing these tropes that seem familiar at first, but they're oh so interesting. So various people are finding themselves on a mysterious train with an endless number of cars. Each one is its own universe, and they must find a way to get home in this animated anthology series. You have the character of Tulip, voiced by Ashley Johnson, who is just fantastic, and then all of these other characters that come on board in this crazy anthology series. Man, so cool. I've never seen anything like it, and there are scenes that you can just look up on YouTube and see the beautiful examples of adult emotion, and I hear people often talk about, well, I mean, it's animated. It's just for kids. It doesn't mean it's for adults. This is something that you can look at, and it transcends that. It's on Cartoon Network, so it's not like Rick and Morty. It's not like Family Guy. It can be watched by kids. It can be taken in by kids. But I watched it. I loved it. I cannot wait for book 3 and HBO Max Original, which is oh so exciting. So that's it, guys. 5 shows that I recommend for you all to watch, to binge through right now. Do you like animated shows? Do you like comedies? Are you more of a drama fan? Hopefully, I gave you a little bit of everything today, but obviously, there are plenty more shows worth talking about on HBO Max. If you would like another one of these videos, maybe talk about the movies a bit, some movies I would recommend, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Tell me. I'd like to see more. I would love to do it because these videos are super fun to make. And if you enjoy it, stay tuned. More things to come on this channel. Love you guys. Appreciate it. I'll see you soon.